9 things rich people buy and never sell. Ever notice how broke people are always the ones giving you spending advice? They call the new iPhone an investment, but really they're just making Apple richer. Meanwhile, wealthy people, they don't buy things, they buy assets. And there are 9 specific assets rich people acquire once and never sell. Because these aren't purchases, they're money-printing machines that generate wealth across generations. Poor people buy stuff that loses value the moment they own it. The middle class buys things hoping they'll appreciate someday. Rich people buy assets that generate income forever while they sleep. Understanding this difference is what separates permanent wealth from temporary comfort. If you've ever wondered why rich people keep getting richer while everyone else stays broke despite working harder, type assets and hit subscribe. Because what separates wealth from poverty isn't how much you earn. It's what you do with what you earn. Asset number 1 is something nobody can ever take from you. And it's the foundation every other asset builds on. Asset 1, skills, the only asset that can't be stolen. Here's the first asset wealthy people acquire and never sell. Skills. Not a job, not a position. Skills. Because jobs disappear, positions get eliminated, companies go bankrupt. But skills, nobody can ever take those from you. Most people rely entirely on their job for income. Lose that job and they lose everything. No backup, no safety net, completely vulnerable because they never invested in building capabilities beyond their current role. Skills are different. You can lose your job, lose your money, lose your house, but if you still have valuable skills, you can rebuild from zero. Skills don't depend on stock markets, don't crash during recessions, and actually increase in value the more you use them. There's ancient wisdom that says, give a man a fish, and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, and you feed him for a lifetime. Poor people hunt for jobs. Rich people build toolboxes of skills that generate income in any situation. Warren Buffett puts it simply, the best investment you can make is in yourself. Nobody can tax it or take it away from you. Wealthy people continuously invest in skills that create income. Negotiation, sales, copywriting, public speaking, coding, financial literacy, leadership, and marketing. These aren't just nice to have. They're income-generating capabilities that create opportunities and increase earning power regardless of employment status. Here's your action. Identify 3 skills that would 10 times your income if you mastered them. For most people, that's some combination of sales, communication, and financial literacy. Invest 5 hours weekly developing those skills through courses, books, deliberate practice, and mentorship. In 2 years, you'll have capabilities that generate income, whether you're employed or not. That's security that no job can provide. I know 2 people who got laid off during the 2008 crisis. First guy had job-specific skills only, knew how to do his particular role, nothing else. He was unemployed for 18 months, eventually took any job he could find, and never recovered financially. The second guy had transferable skills, sales ability, negotiation expertise, financial analysis, and leadership. Within 3 months, he started a consulting business. Within 2 years, he was earning more than his old job ever paid. They lost the same job on the same day. But the first guy lost his only source of income. The second guy lost one application of his skills and immediately found another. The first guy told me, we were in the same meeting when they laid us off. I thought we were equally screwed, but I'd spent 10 years being good at my job. He'd spent 10 years building capabilities that transcended any employer. Jobs are temporary, skills are permanent. That's the difference between fragile and resilient. Your job is what you're currently paid to do. Your skills are what you're capable of doing. Rich people focus on capabilities, not positions. But that's just the obvious part. What I'm about to say is what makes the difference between having skills and having leverage. Asset 2. Personal brand, the gold mine of 2025. Here's the second asset wealthy people build and never sell. Personal brand. In 2025, attention is currency, and people with brands have something more valuable than money. They have power. Most people are completely anonymous. No reputation outside their immediate circle. No platform, no audience. When they need an opportunity, they have to beg for it. When they have value to offer, nobody knows they exist. That's not a position of strength. That's financial vulnerability disguised as privacy. Personal brand is digital real estate that generates income, opportunities, and trust 24 hours a day without you actively working. You don't need millions of followers. You need credibility and demonstrated expertise in something valuable. When you own attention, you own leverage. And leverage is why wealthy people never worry about losing their jobs. They're not dependent on one employer because they have audiences that would follow them anywhere. Naval Ravikant says it perfectly. Learn to sell. Learn to build. If you can do both, you will be unstoppable. Personal brand is how you learn to sell at scale. Build a reputation as an expert in a valuable area. Share knowledge consistently. Help people publicly. Document your expertise, your journey, your insights. Create content that demonstrates competence, not just claims it. Over time, attention accumulates into an asset that generates opportunities automatically. Job offers find you. Clients reach out to you. Partnerships appear without you chasing them. That's leverage. Here's your action. Choose one platform: LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, or newsletter. Post valuable content 3 to 5 times weekly for 12 straight months. Not selling yourself, not bragging, teaching, helping, demonstrating expertise through giving value. In 1 year, you'll have an audience and reputation that creates opportunities you never have to hunt for. Personal brand is compound interest applied to attention. I know someone who spent 10 years being excellent at their corporate job, but remained completely anonymous outside the company. When layoffs came, he had to cold apply to hundreds of positions. Took him 8 months to find a new role, and he had to take a pay cut. His colleague had identical skills and experience, but spent those same 10 years building a personal brand. Shared insights on LinkedIn, wrote articles, spoke at industry conferences, built a reputation as an expert in their niche. When the same layoffs hit, she had 15 companies reach out within 2 weeks with opportunities, several offering more money than her previous role. Same skills, same experience, completely different outcomes. She told me, we were equally good at our jobs. The difference was I'd built a reputation outside my employer's walls. I was excellent in public, he was excellent in private. Visibility is leverage, anonymity is vulnerability. When opportunity knows your name, you never have to chase it. Personal brand isn't vanity or self-promotion. It's insurance, it's leverage. It's the asset that generates options, and options are what freedom actually means in 2025. And what I'm about to say is what makes the difference between having opportunities and having wealth that compounds while you sleep. Asset 3, real estate millionaire machine. Here's the third asset wealthy people never sell. Real estate. Not flashy, not hyped, no memes. But real estate remains the most consistent wealth-building vehicle in history. Most people think real estate is only for rich people or requires massive capital, so they rent forever, building someone else's wealth while their own money disappears into a landlord's pocket every month. Wealthy people don't speculate on land, hoping to flip for quick profit. They own properties that other people must rent. And rental properties provide 4 simultaneous wealth-building mechanisms that no other asset matches. First, passive rental income every single month. Tenants pay you for the right to live in the property you own. Second, equity that builds automatically as the mortgage gets paid down by your tenants, not by you. Third, appreciation as property values increase over decades. Fourth, tax advantages through depreciation deductions and mortgage interest write-offs that dramatically reduce your tax burden. Plus, you're using leverage, the bank's money, to control an expensive asset. Put down 20%, the bank finances 80%, but you capture 100% of the appreciation and income. Andrew Carnegie said it over a century ago, 90% of millionaires became so through owning real estate. Start with house hacking if direct ownership feels impossible. Buy a duplex, live in one unit, rent the other unit to cover most or all of your mortgage. Then scale to more properties. Or invest in REITs if direct ownership isn't feasible yet. The point is owning property that generates income, not just living in property that costs you money. Here's the math that changes everything. Buy a $300,000 property with 20% down, that's $60,000. Rent covers the mortgage plus expenses. Property appreciates 3% annually. Mortgage gets paid down by tenants. After 20 years, the mortgage is completely paid off by the tenant's rent payments. Property is now worth $540,000. You have a $540,000 asset from a $60,000 investment, funded entirely by other people's rent. That's why rich people buy real estate and never sell. It's a slow cooker wealth machine that feeds families for generations. I know someone who couldn't afford real estate and paid $2,000 monthly rent for 15 years. Total paid $360,000. Zero equity, zero ownership. That money vanished forever into his landlord's wealth. His friend bought a duplex with $50,000 down, lived in one unit, rented the other for $1,800, which covered most of his $2,200 mortgage. After 15 years, $250,000 in equity built, property worth $500,000, almost entirely paid for by his tenant. The renter told me, we both needed places to live for 15 years. He used that housing need to build a $500,000 asset. I used it to make my landlord wealthy. Same 15 years, same housing need, he owns valuable property, I have a box of rent receipts. Real estate is a rich person's slow cooker. Put it on low heat, let it simmer for a decade, and it feeds your whole family. Not exciting, not fast, but the wealth it creates is permanent and passive. Wait, there's something you need to pay attention to if you don't want to lose everything. Because real estate builds wealth slowly, but this next asset automates wealth without you touching anything. Asset 4. Stocks and index funds. The lazy person's wealth machine. Here's the fourth asset wealthy people acquire and hold forever. Stocks and index funds. Specifically, broad market index funds that own pieces of hundreds of profitable businesses simultaneously. Most people think you need to day trade or pick winning stocks to build wealth from the market. So they either gamble on meme stocks hoping to get rich quickly, or they avoid the stock market entirely, missing decades of compound growth. Here's the truth. You don't need to day trade to get rich from stocks. You just need to own small pieces of businesses that never stop making money. Every time someone buys an iPhone, Apple makes money. If you own Apple stock, you get paid. Every time someone eats at McDonald's, streams Netflix, uses Google, shops on Amazon, if you own those stocks, you capture a tiny piece of that transaction. Index funds like the S&P 500 let you own the entire economy with a single purchase. You're not betting on individual companies. You're betting on American capitalism continuing to generate wealth, which it's done reliably for over a century. Historical average return, 10% annually over the long term. Some years more, some years less, but the trend is unmistakably upward for patient investors. But there's only one rule that matters. Buy and hold. Don't try to time the market. Don't panic sell during crashes. Don't dig up the tree every week to see if it's growing. Water it consistently and wait decades. Warren Buffett famously won $1 million bet against hedge fund managers. His weapon? A simple S&P 500 index fund. It outperformed the expert hedge fund stock pickers over 10 years because low fees and patient holding beat active trading and high costs. Here's your action. Open a brokerage account at Vanguard, Fidelity, or Schwab. Buy a total market index fund like VTI or an S&P 500 fund like VOO. Automate $500 to $1,500 in monthly contributions. Never check it daily. Never panic during crashes. Never try to get fancy with individual stock picks. The math. Invest $1,000 monthly for 30 years at 10% average annual returns, and you'll have approximately $2.3 million. Rich people buy index funds and never sell because compounding requires time and patience. not activity or intelligence. I know someone who invested $500 monthly from age 30 to 65 in an S&P 500 index fund. Never touched it. Never sold during crashes in 2008, 2020, and others. Rode through every panic. Retired with $1.87 million. His friend actively managed his portfolio with the same monthly contributions. Traded frequently, trying to beat the market. Tried to time crashes, panicked and sold during downturns. Ended with $680,000 from identical contributions over an identical time period. The patient investor told me, "We invested the exact same amount of money over the same 35 years." He tried to be smart and beat the market. I tried to be patient and match the market. Patience beat intelligence by over $1 million. The stock market is a device for transferring money from active traders to patient investors. Time in the market beats timing the market. Buy businesses that print money. Hold them while they do. That's the entire game. But that's just the surface. What's behind it is what will startle people. Because stocks build wealth through compounding, but this next asset determines whether you can hold through the crashes. Asset 5. Emergency cash reserve. Insurance for intelligence. Here's the fifth asset wealthy people maintain and never eliminate. Emergency cash reserves. Not invested, not working hard, just sitting in high-yield savings earning modest interest. And this dead money is actually one of the most important assets they own. Most people either keep zero cash reserves, making them vulnerable to every financial shock, or they keep too much cash, earning nothing while inflation eats it. Neither strategy protects wealth nor builds it. Cash isn't dead money. It's your survival shield and your opportunity fund rolled into one strategic asset. Emergency cash prevents the forced selling of investments during market crashes. When markets drop 40% and everyone's panicking, people without cash reserves are forced to sell stocks at massive losses just to cover basic expenses. They lock in permanent losses because they have no choice. People with cash reserves, they weather the storm without touching investments. Better yet, they use that cash to buy stocks on sale while everyone else is panic selling. Cash equals liquidity. Liquidity equals leverage. Studies of wealthy individuals show they keep 10 to 20% of their net worth in cash equivalents. Not for returns, but for optionality. Warren Buffett keeps tens of billions in cash, waiting for opportunities that only appear during crises. Here's the strategy. 6 to 12 months of expenses in high-yield savings, earning 4 to 5% currently. That's your true emergency fund for job loss, medical crisis, or unexpected disasters. Then build a secondary opportunity fund, additional cash that sits waiting for market crashes to buy discounted assets. During the 2020 crash, people with cash bought stocks at 40% discounts and made fortunes when markets recovered 6 months later. People without cash were forced to sell at the bottom just to survive. Cash determines whether you're a crisis victim or a crisis opportunist. Calculate 6 months of your expenses right now. If you spend $4,000 monthly, that's $24,000 in emergency reserves. Build that before aggressive investing. Then, accumulate opportunity cash on top of that. I know 2 investors with identical portfolios during the 2008 financial crisis. The first investor had no cash reserves, was fully invested, trying to maximize returns. When his portfolio dropped by 50%, he had to sell stocks at the bottom to cover an emergency expense. He locked in massive permanent losses. The second investor had 30% of his net worth in cash. His portfolio dropped the same 50%, but he didn't need to touch it. He used cash reserves to cover expenses and actually bought more stocks at crashed prices. When the market recovered, the first investor was still down 25% from his pre-crash peak. The second investor was up 60% because he'd bought the discount. The second investor told me, "We had identical net worth before the crash." He was fully invested, trying to maximize every dollar's return. I had cash sitting there earning basically nothing, which felt inefficient. But the crash proved cash isn't just protection from selling, It's ammunition to buy when everyone else is forced to sell. That's how wealth transfers from the fearful to the prepared. Rich people keep cash not because they're scared, because optionality has enormous value that doesn't show up in return calculations until the moment you need it most. It sounds simple, but the hardest part is what's about to be told next. Because cash protects your wealth, but this next asset is what gives you control over creating it. Asset 6. Business ownership. The personal money printing machine. Here's the 6th asset wealthy people acquire and never give up. Business ownership. Even if it's small, even if it's just a side business. Because owning a business, any business, is the escape route from complete financial dependency. A single income stream from a job is a financial noose around your neck. Lose that job and you lose everything. No control over your income. No leverage. Completely dependent on someone else's decisions about your financial life. Owning a business changes everything, even a small one. Because a business converts your time into systems and your skills into scalable income. Business ownership provides 4 things employment never can. First, cash flow that you control, not some boss or corporation. Second, an asset that has actual value and can be sold if needed. Third, tax advantages that employees never get access to. Fourth, freedom to make decisions about your time and money. Here's the critical difference nobody talks about. Employees get taxed on income first, then spend what's left. Business owners spend on legitimate business expenses first, then get taxed only on what remains. Same income, completely different tax treatment. That's not tax evasion. That's how the tax code is designed to encourage business ownership and economic activity. Start with a side business in a skill you already have. Consulting, freelancing, e-commerce, service business, coaching, whatever. Scale it evenings and weekends while keeping your job. Build to $2,000 to $5,000 monthly extra income. That side business provides multiple benefits simultaneously. Income security if you lose your job. Tax deductions for business expenses you'd pay anyway. An asset you control and can sell. A path to complete independence from employment. Business ownership is the vehicle that moves people from the middle class to the wealthy class, not higher salaries. I know someone who earned $85,000 as an employee, paid a 25% effective tax rate, that's $21,000 in taxes, and lived on $64,000 after tax. He quit to start a consulting business doing identical work, still earned $85,000 in revenue. But he deducted $25,000 in legitimate business expenses. Home office, computer equipment, professional development, business travel, and software subscriptions. Only paid taxes on $60,000 of income, same work, same revenue. But he saved over $6,000 in taxes. Plus those $25,000 in deductions were expenses he would have paid personally anyway. Total benefit, over $31,000 more in his pocket from identical income. He told me, "I'm not cheating. I'm not doing anything illegal. I'm just playing the game the way it was designed to be played." The tax code rewards business owners and punishes employees. I did the exact same work, earning the exact same amount. But business structure and tax treatment put $30,000 more in my pocket annually. Employees get destroyed by taxes. Business owners get advantages. Rich people don't work for money. They build systems that generate money whether they're actively working or not. Business is the ultimate controllable asset because it compounds your skills, your time, and your tax advantages into wealth that continues growing even while you sleep. Don't jump to conclusions because what comes next can change your perspective completely. Because owning a business gives you control, but this next asset generates income even when you completely stop working. Asset 7. Intellectual property. The machine that generates revenue forever. Here's the 7th asset wealthy people create and never stop profiting from. Intellectual property. Books, courses, content, music, software, patents, systems. Anything you create once that generates income indefinitely. Most people sell their time for money. Work an hour, get paid once for that hour, stop working. Stop earning. Your maximum possible income is capped by the hours in a day and your willingness to work them. That's not wealth building. That's time slavery with a paycheck. Wealthy people don't sell time. They sell ideas that generate income forever after the initial creation. Taylor Swift lives off music royalties from songs written decades ago. J.K. Rowling earns millions annually from Harry Potter books she finished writing over 15 years ago. Successful YouTubers earn from videos they made years ago that people still watch today. Intellectual property is the asset that works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, never complains, never gets tired, never needs a raise, and scales infinitely. The internet transformed IP from only celebrities can do this to anyone with expertise and internet access can build this. You don't need to be famous. You just need knowledge people will pay for and the discipline to package it into a scalable format. Create an online course teaching skills you already have. Write a book about the knowledge you've accumulated. Build a content library that remains valuable. Develop software solving problems you understand. Create systems and processes you can license to others. Make it once, sell it 1,000 times. That's leverage through intellectual property. Here's the math. Create an online course teaching something you're an expert at. Takes 40 hours of work to produce. Price it at $300. Sell it to 500 people the first year. That's $150,000 from 40 hours of work. And that course continues selling for years after, with zero additional effort required. I know a consultant who charged $200 per hour for his advice. He was trading time for money, maxing out at roughly $8,000 monthly, working full capacity. He could never earn more because hours are finite. He created an online course teaching the same knowledge he'd been selling hourly. Took him 40 hours to produce, sold it for $300. First year, 500 people bought it, $150,000. 3 years later, it still sells 50 plus copies monthly, $15,000 monthly, passive income. Without any additional work. He told me, when I consulted, my income stopped the moment I stopped working. The course earns money while I sleep, while I'm on vacation, while I'm working on other projects. I worked 40 hours once, and it's generated over $400,000 across 3 years and counting. That's intellectual property. That's leverage. That's how wealthy people disconnect income from time. Time is finite. You have limited hours. But ideas? Ideas are infinite. Ideas scale without limits. Trading time for money means income dies when you stop working. Building intellectual property means income continues indefinitely after the work is finished. The internet democratized IP creation. Anyone with valuable knowledge can now build assets that generate income across decades and geography without limitation. Wait, the most important part is in the following story. Because all these assets generate wealth, but this next one determines whether you live long enough to enjoy it. Asset 9. Time, the only asset you can never buy back. Here's the 9th and final asset that wealthy people obsess over above everything else. Time, not money. Time. Because time is the only asset that depletes at a fixed rate, regardless of your wealth. And once it's gone forever. Money can be earned again. Houses can be rebuilt, investments recover from crashes, but 10 years wasted? That decade is permanently gone. You can never get it back, regardless of how much money you accumulate later. Time is the only resource that's absolutely finite and non-renewable. Wealthy people don't ask, how much money does this cost? They ask, how much time does this cost or save? Every single asset on this list exists for one ultimate purpose: buying back your time. Real estate generates passive income, so you don't trade time for money. Stocks compound while you sleep. Businesses run on systems instead of your hours. Intellectual property earns without your active involvement. All of it is designed to return sovereignty over your time. Financial independence isn't about owning a Ferrari or living in a mansion. It's about owning your time completely. Waking up and deciding how to spend your day based on what matters to you, not based on what pays the bills. Seneca wrote 2,000 years ago, "It is not that we have short lives, but that we waste a lot of them." Rich people obsess over time efficiency because time is the only currency that can't be counterfeited, can't be earned back, and can't be inherited. Calculate your time freedom number, monthly expenses divided by monthly passive income from assets. Need $5,000 monthly to live, currently generating $2,000 monthly passive income? You're 40% time free. Reach 100% and you own your time completely. Every asset you build should move this number higher. That's the only wealth metric that actually matters. I know someone who spent 20 years climbing the corporate ladder, earned great money, over $200,000 annually, saved aggressively, but traded 60 to 70 hours weekly, plus commute for that income. At 50, he had $2 million saved, but realized he'd missed his kids growing up. His health was declining. His parents died while he was too busy working. His passions were abandoned. His life was postponed for someday later. His friend earned less on average, $90,000, but built businesses and rental properties, generating passive income earlier. At 45, had only $800,000 net worth, but $6,500 monthly passive income covering all expenses. He quit his job and spent the next 20 years doing exactly what he wanted, while his wealth continued compounding in the background. At 65, they met for coffee. The first guy told him, "You had less money than I at 45, but you had more life. I traded time for money for decades, planning to buy time back later. You built assets that returned time while you were still young enough to use it. I optimized for net worth. You optimized for time sovereignty. Now we're both 65. Your life was lived, mine was postponed, and those years can never be recovered." Poor people trade time for money. Rich people trade money for time. Truly wealthy people build assets that generate both simultaneously. Every asset exists to serve one master, returning control of your time before time runs out. Now you know the 9 assets rich people buy and never sell. Skills that can't be stolen, personal brand that generates opportunities, real estate that pays you monthly, stocks that compound forever, cash reserves that create optionality, business ownership that provides leverage, intellectual property that earns while you sleep, health that enables everything else, and time that's the ultimate currency of freedom. These aren't purchases, they're wealth-building machines that generate returns across decades. Here's your challenge. Pick one asset from this list you don't own yet. Build it over the next 90 days. Learn a valuable skill. Start creating content to build your brand. Save for your first investment property down payment. Open a brokerage account and automate stock investments. Start a side business. Create one piece of intellectual property. Just pick one. Comment on how many of these 9 assets you currently own. Be brutally honest. 0, 3, 5, all 9? And which asset are you committing to build next? Hit subscribe for detailed playbooks on building each asset from scratch on a normal income. Remember, poor people buy things that lose value. Rich people buy assets that generate wealth. These 9 assets won't make you rich overnight. They'll make you wealthy forever. Because real wealth isn't loud. It compounds silently every day while you actually live your life.